Welcome to the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast with me, Venus O'Hara. An orgasmic lifestyle is about reaching a climax in all areas of life, not just in the bedroom. Here, we dive deep with expert guests on topics like nutrition, spirituality, personal development, sexuality, and much more. Together, we'll explore lifestyle lessons to help you lead a life that's fulfilling, joyful, and unapologetically orgasmic. I'm your guide, Venus O'Hara. Welcome to episode 153 of the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast with Venus O'Hara. In this new moon episode, we discuss the new moon, new beginnings, and the power of saying yes. We speak with Yesbelt Fernandez, and she's the author of the book New Moon Life Design. Manifest the life you want using lunar cycles, tarot, and astrology. I also review the Netflix series Age of Attraction, which is a dating show where age is a number, or they explore whether age is a number, and they explore age gap relationships and the challenges they face. And the episode ends with a guided meditation with affirmations for the new moon. But first, let me share with you my own experience with the power of saying yes. When I was reading today's guest's book, New Moon Life Design, she talked about how saying yes to things changed her life as it opened up many new doors, many new opportunities as well. And it made me think of a time in my life when I decided to say yes to everything in a day. This was a few years ago now, maybe, 3 years ago. And I was inspired by the film Yes Man, starring Jim Carrey. And it's interesting because when I did this, I still hadn't seen the film, so I wasn't really sure about how it panned out. All I knew was that Jim Carrey started saying yes to things, and he started to have these experiences that he never could have imagined, simply because he said yes. And anyway, I decided to do this experiment because I was feeling so down. I remember I'd started to see someone, and he was being, I don't know, how can I say it in nice words? Let's just say I had put all my hope into a relationship, and it wasn't giving me the returns that I expected. So I was feeling really down, and it was kind of hard to walk away from because I really had a lot of hope. And I've come to realize that hope is kind of a disempowering emotion sometimes because it can make you stay in places for longer than you should. And anyway, it also, especially if it's false hope or hope that things are going to change and they're not going to change. But anyway, to snap me out of this, how would I say, a feeling of just being down and just kind of feeling sorry for myself, I just decided I'm going to start saying yes to everything. So the day started with me going to an art gallery tour in the morning, and I'm just so not a morning person. It was a Saturday morning as well. So to set an alarm on a Saturday morning when you want to be really chilling out from the hard work of the week, this was very out of character. But I really enjoyed it. It was just something new. Went to all these galleries, and it's one of those things where, you just see a dot on a wall, and then these artists are talking about what it meant conceptually and what it's supposed to convey. It was all a kind of like intellectual BS, but I kind of liked that as well. It was nice to be a part of that world. I wouldn't say anything that I saw that day was decorative or beautiful. It was all very conceptual and very, very much tied to messages and statements, I suppose. And also then I ended up going to lunch, and it was just a whole day of my social batteries being drained, but it was a great day. And in the evening, I had an event planned with my Conscious Connections group. And then between the kind of events of the day, I had to kind of just go home and just connect with myself, use a toy and do some sex magic. And then I was ready to go out to a dinner that I had organized. And I was telling my friends at that dinner why I was feeling down, and I was getting a lot of support from them, which was amazing. But at the time, we were in an area of Barcelona called Poblenou, and they had their local fiestas, which were just fantastic. And I ended up going to a flamenco concert, and just there was all these street parties, street concerts. And I'd never been to these fiestas before, so that was a very new experience. And I ended up in a Cuban concert, which was fantastic. But I have a bit of trauma as far as Latin music is concerned, because many moons ago, I had Latin fever big time when I first came to Spain. And also I started to learn salsa. Then I worked for a salsa record company. So I imagine I was really kind of happy to land this job as a international manager. So I was just surrounded by salsa all day. I was living with a guy who was my salsa partner, also my partner. And I was at work with salsa. But then both of those things ended really badly. I mean, the salsa record company job ended up in an industrial tribunal. I ended up having to sue them, which was a very traumatic thing. Anyone who's been through a court case knows how traumatic it is, because you're reliving the trauma over and over and over again. And also you have to face the people who've made your life a misery. So it's safe to say that I did not want to hear any more salsa for a long time. And the same with my, the guy I was living with, that didn't end up in anything legal, but we had a very turbulent relationship that ended very badly. So I was just like, I was salsa'd out. And I didn't even dance for so many years. So when I was in this Cuban concert in my day of saying yes, this guy asked me to dance. And I was like, oh my God, salsa. I think I hadn't danced for maybe 15 years or something. And I was like, oh, I haven't danced for a long time. Then I remembered, but I'm saying yes to everything today. So I ended up saying, okay, yes. And I said, I haven't danced for a long time. So don't worry, I'll lead you. So we danced. I did a couple of bad moves. But then, wow, something happened. And I just really got into it. And I just remembered why I loved salsa so much in the first place, what really called me to it when I first learned it many moons ago in Paris. And I was just filled with joy. And at the end of the song, I was like, another one. We ended up dancing 7 songs. And then when he had to leave, then I was with my friends and I was just like, oh my God, salsa. It was like this forgotten passion of mine. It was just, I was ecstatic. And then I carried on dancing for a bit and it was quite late. And then I went home. I got home about 2 a.m. and I put more salsa on and just danced in my lounge. I remembered, oh my God, I've forgotten all of these steps, all of these moves. And then the next day I ended up going to a salsa party as well. So I was just thought, and then ever since then I've been dancing salsa and bachata quite regularly. And I just think how incredible it was just from a day of saying yes, opening doors to things I never would have experienced. I think it's quite powerful to do that. And sometimes I just do wonder sometimes, where the yes is in the body. Sometimes if I'd listened to my intuition, it would have been like, oh, I don't want to do this, don't want to do this. But sometimes if you push yourself out of your comfort zone and do something you don't really expect to like, that can really open your mind and open you up to new things. But going back to the film, I actually ended up seeing the film Yes Man, and it was wonderful to see how this yes just opened up so many new opportunities. But it got to a point where when it was yes to everything, then you get to a point where you don't know if it's based on any kind of discernment, and it kind of loses its value at that point when it becomes to extreme yes to everything. So I'm not sure. It kind of the day ended for me, so there was no danger of getting to that point. The next day, I just ended up saying yes to whatever I wanted and then no to whatever I didn't want as well. So it was a really interesting exercise, and I just thought it was interesting how it would kind of is a very similar experience to today's guest, but who has a very different experience. But we will discover her meaning of yes, or what yes means for her in the interview. And I'm super thrilled to share this today because we have been following a lunar cycle since the beginning on this podcast, since 2021. So it's going to be 5 years this summer. And I started off on a full moon, actually, this podcast. And then it was full moon, new moon for a while. And then just last year, I think I started doing 4 a month. So first quarter, third quarter. And yeah, I keep having to look up the lunar calendar to see when we are publishing, but I still kind of like keeping this witchy publishing schedule. And I think today's guest was very aligned with it. Anyway, I hope you enjoy this exploration of the yes and the new moon as much as I did. What if your pleasure was the portal to your power. My new book, Orgasmic Manifestation, Transform Your Life with Your Sexual Energy by Venus O'Hara, is your guide to using desire as a tool for abundance, purpose, and deep self-connection. Your orgasm is more than a moment. It's a message, a manifestation, a mirror of your limitless potential. Available now on Amazon. Link in the show notes below. Now it's time for this episode's interview. We speak with Yesbelt Fernandez, the author of New Moon Life Design. Yesbelt Fernandez, welcome to the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. How are you?
I'm doing very well. I'm very excited to speak to you. So, for those who are unfamiliar with your work, could you tell us what you do?
I am a lunar cycle personal development, I guess, coach
Mm-hmm.
and circle leader in New York City. I do that as my side job. And then in my day job, I work in financial services as an office manager at a high net worth office.
Wow. So, what inspired you to follow this path, the spiritual path?
I had a calling essentially. I was drawn to tarot cards and I decided to buy myself a tarot deck. And once I got the tarot deck, I had no idea like what the symbols were, and I was very curious, and I started studying. And then the study just led into different modalities like astrology, herbalism, yoga,
Mm.
Reiki, all kinds of different like spiritual modalities. And I like to say that I was spiraling into synchronicity. So every time I said yes to something, then I would spiral into something different, into something else. And as the years went by, I felt like they were all interconnected, which is why I wrote the book New Moon Life Design, how to manifest using tarot, astrology, and lunar cycles. All of these things came together, and I designed a personal development practice around it that works on a monthly basis, which I like to call monthly basis.
I love that. And it's really interesting what you said about the yes. Because in my podcast interviews, I always ask people at the end, what is a quote or affirmation that you live by? And a couple of my guests have said, say yes. So it's really interesting. And then we think of no's, that's more kind of boundary. So tell me how the yes impacted you, and how did you get this idea to just start saying? Have you seen Yes Man with Jim Carrey?
I haven't,
Right.
but I did read The Year of Yes
Uh-huh.
by the creator of Bridgerton. I'm blanking on her
Oh,
name right now.
wow. Okay.
Yes, but I did this like a long time ago. I just felt like I didn't have what I wanted. Like I didn't have friends. I wasn't going to the places that I wanted to go to. And then I realized that when I was getting invitations, I was saying no.
Mm.
So I decided at that point, if I want to get what I want, I have to start saying yes. So the more I started saying yes to things, the better my life became. I started getting very interesting invitations to places. I was meeting new people, and I was being put in better circumstances for myself. And that's kind of how I came up with yes. And then later I thought, well, it's a spiral. So it keeps growing and I keep getting to another level each time. Like the situations are kind of the same, but I'm just like moving up the ladder in a way. So
Mm.
that's why my website is yesspiral.com.
Okay, amazing. So do you listen to your body, or you just say yes? I mean, is there some kind of process that you use? Because sometimes when we say yes with a doubt, it can be a bit confusing.
Yes, I agree with that.
Mm.
I'm very intuitive and I just know things. It's called clear cognizance.
Mm.
So if I get a clear knowing of something, then I will trust it
Mm.
because I feel like anything that I do even if it turns out to be a negative experience, that it's something that I needed to learn in order to for my next chapter. So I think it's important to have all kinds of experience in life, and like any mistake that I've made, I've always had like a really great learning experience from it, and it has led me on a path that I really want to go on, even if it took longer. And I think it just gives wisdom. So I just trust my messages, and the more that I've been trusting those messages, the better I've been coming along. And I have to say, I've had a lot of help. I've always used tarot since I started on this process. The first
Mm,
thing that I got was a tarot deck. So I would always work with the tarot to help me make decisions. And like if I wasn't trusting the message that I was saying for myself, then I would go into the book and see what the book said.
mm,
So like that, I could see like, oh, are we like on the same page here?
mm. So for someone who's not familiar with using tarot as a, just tap into the yes or no, how would you do that? You just ask a question, shuffle the deck, and draw a card. I mean, is that how you would use them?
Yes, yes, I use it like that. But I think it's important to say also that it's important to have a like systematic relationship with tarot,
Mm,
because I noticed that some people, when they're very nervous about something, they'll like turn to the tarot cards
mm,
to ask a question, and then they will get the message that they want. I find that whenever I'm feeling like I like a bit of desperation over
mhm,
something and I really want to know, then I won't read for myself. I'll have somebody else read for me because then I'm too close. But I find that having a regular relationship with the tarot cards is what will give you like a stronger yes, that you'll know for sure that that's what it means because you've already built a relationship. And like the way that I did that was by studying the cards. At first, I started with one card. Then I learned about this method of separating the cards into three piles. So the major arcana cards, the minor arcana cards, and then the court cards.
oh, tell us about that. I'm super intrigued. Why would you
Yeah,
do that?
so
Mm,
every day you will pick one of each,
mm,
and then the major arcana is the path.
mm.
The court card is the posture, and the minor arcana card is the practice. So these three cards will tell you kind of like how your day, like you could just see like the archetype that happened in your day through the cards. This is a tarot spread that was made by my friend Carolyn Cushing.
Okay. And people are a bit afraid of tarot sometimes. What would you tell them? And why do you think people are afraid of tarot?
Because there are cards in there that people find scary,
Mm,
like death. The death card, by the way, death is Scorpio in tarot. Transformation. I'm saying that to you because you have a lot of Scorpio like energies in your chart. Um, then there's also the devil. I think the devil might be the scariest one.
really? Okay. I actually drew the death card today because I do one card reading a day. So, but I
And
always
you,
try and look at the positive side. So when I say death, I think something's ending, it's transformation or a rebirth, So I always look at it like that. I always look at the bright side, even if it's something that's terrible. But I would say the most fearful cards, I would say the tower as well as one that, yeah. But that's kind of exciting, I think, transformation.
I, yeah, I forgot about the tower because I think it's so exciting.
Yeah. Everything's changing, yeah.
Yeah. The other card that I think people are afraid of is the Ten of Swords. That's
Mm,
the card where there's a man on the ground and he has 10 swords in his back.
yeah.
So people don't really want to see that card. I mean, I don't even like to see it, but it just means it's come to an end and there's no way back from it. It's time to rebuild from there. It's basically like rock bottom.
Oh, and also the Eight of Swords. That's just like terrible with someone, tied up and then with a blindfold and loads of swords behind her. Yeah.
Yeah, well, when I look at that card, She's tied up, but the strings around her are pretty loose, so she
Mm.
can get out of that at any moment. And then the swords represent the mind. So when I look at that card, if it shows up for me, I wonder what are the narratives that are holding me back? What is it that's stopping me? Like to me, that would be like a no. If I
Okay.
got that card, I'd be like, no.
Not going out tonight. No.
Yeah, yeah.
So do you have any favorite decks? I mean, which description you just sounded like the Rider Waite. Is that
I
the
love the Rider-Waite for reading. When I read publicly, I always use the Rider-Waite. I think it has great imagery, and also it's the deck that's used widely in like writing about tarot. So
Mhm.
if somebody takes a picture of the spread, it's easy for them to find the card, like the corresponding card, like if they want to read more about it. And
Mhm.
I like to do that because I want everybody to learn tarot. So it makes it accessible to them. But in my own personal practice, I've been working with Midnight City Tarot. It's an indie deck and it's based in New York City. So it has like all of these New York City's like places, and each of the suits is a different subway line,
Oh
which I
wow.
love. And then two of the cards take place in a herb shop called Flower Power, where I apprentice as an herbalist and where I host many of my moon circles. So when I saw one of the cards, which was the Nine of Pentacles, I immediately knew that I had to have the deck, and I've been using it ever since. So for like 3 or 4 years. And then there's this other deck that I really like. It's called Real Talk Tarot, and it's just like a really cute deck. I think it's marketed to kids, but
Mm.
that's one of the decks that I really like because it's cute. All of the cards are nice. It has like very nice messages, which sometimes I need because New York City is a very tough place to be. So
Mm.
cute messages are helpful.
Wow. The first deck I got was the second one, Toth or Thoth deck, Alistair
Yes,
Crowley. That's kind of difficult to read. Well, there's beautiful pictures, but not so easy. But then the Rider Waite, I went to an astrology group and everyone was talking about the Rider Waite. I thought, how could I have that? I just like how you can just read the picture without having to look it up sometimes because all the original symbology is there.
exactly. That's
Mm.
why I have very few Thoth inspired decks
Mm.
because the minor arcana cards are
Mm.
basically a number. Like
Mm.
Seven of Wands is seven wands. Three of
Mm.
Swords is three swords. No other imagery, kind of like the playing card deck.
Mm. And they
So
have a
it's,
word sometimes as well. Yeah.
yes,
Mm.
sometimes it does have a word, which
Mm.
to me then you associate that card with that one word. An
Mm.
image is worth 1,000 words.
Yeah, that's why I like all the Rider Waite because you got all these things in it. And what you said earlier about the Eight of Swords, I've heard the same about the Devil, like the collars that you can take them off at any time, so you're not really in bondage. You can release
Exactly.
yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. One thing that I like to point out to anyone who I think is very afraid of the devil
Mm.
card
Mm.
is the lover's card
Mm.
because it's basically the opposite. It's like light and
Mm.
dark, like being
Mm.
bounded together, wanting to be together.
Mm.
So I really like that juxtaposition of the two different cards. And to me, it just shows like a different side of it, kind of like the upright and the reversed.
Mm.
And another thing to say about the devil card is that it's connected to Capricorn in astrology.
Mm.
And Capricorn is the sign of ambition, success, recognition, which is something that I really want. I think that other people want that as well. And the card that represents that is the devil, which means what are you going to bind yourself to in order to get that thing?
Mm. And
So it's not necessarily a negative thing.
yeah, absolutely. And also, what about I was thinking of the devil, I think of ambition as well. It's kind of similar. I just think of
Exactly.
yeah. So what about so do you say you use tarot for more about reflecting your present rather than looking predicting the future? Because that's another
Yes.
misconception that people have.
Yes, I my tarot readings and the reflective practice in new moon life design
Mm,
is a mirror.
mm,
So look at yourself in the mirror and what do you see? And I see whatever I want,
mm,
right? But then the tarot is there to be like, no, this is what's really there, is to show you that thing that you don't want to see, like what's in your unconscious, essentially. That's
mm,
why I think like the tarot taps into your intuition
mm,
and
definitely.
it really reveals the secrets that are in there that you've put behind because um when there's something we don't like, we kind of recoil from it and put it in the shadow and forget about it. The tarot brings it up.
Mm. Tell us about your book then, because I was really intrigued by the title. What was the
So my book
inspiration? Mm,
is a monthly development practice
mm,
using lunar cycles, which are basically a calendar. So it's a 29 and a half day cycle. Astrology is what guides focus in this practice. Each moon cycle begins in a different zodiac sign, and each of the zodiac signs is associated with a different set of life areas. And if you work with this practice over the course of a year, you would have touched on every part of your life. And the perfect part is that it is continuous, so it keeps going. And then the astrology is what, like I said, it taps into your intuition. So it tells you, like, is this a yes? Is this a no? Is this going to guide me forward? Is this going to hold me back? And everything comes together through journaling.
oh,
That's where the messages come through. I have a strong journaling practice. I journal almost every day with tarot cards or just stream of consciousness. And I find that that is a great way to reflect for me. Um, yeah,
I agree so much. I agree so much. I love journaling, especially like a prompt. You just never know where it can lead you. It's super
exactly.
powerful.
So like my practice has prompts that have to do with astrology. So it'll ask you what sign is the moon in? And then when you look up the sign, you'll find out like, okay, this is how I can approach the day, or this is how I can approach this week. And then the tarot cards also give you another message, like what are you trying to grow, or what do you need to release? What are you celebrating? So it has all of these questions that put you in a very like self-reflective state that can make you self-aware as you move through life. And I think being self-aware is what gives me confidence to be able to do the things I want because my eyes are wide open and I know what I'm doing.
Mm. I think a lot in the moon. Actually, this podcast we have a lunar schedule, and so we do full moon,
Mm.
new moon, first quarter, third quarter. So I release episodes on those days. So that is really. I've been doing that since we started in 2021. So I always have to look up. I'm very always looking at when the moon is. It's very. So tell us about because I think when people think of let's say following lunar cycles, I think people have let's say the full moon is like more revered, but
Hmm.
I used to kind of like that more. I was living in a penthouse apartment by the beach, and I started getting into crystals, and I heard about you have to put the crystals out at the full moon and all that, and then the moon was just so amazing from this sixth floor that I was living on. I became very aware of the lunar cycles. But as I started to learn more about the moon, I was more kind of impressed by the new moon because it's like about beginnings. Was it the same for you, or can you tell us about the phases and what new moon means for you?
So when I started my practice, I started with the new moon.
Mm,
Um, I was told by someone that I had met that I should start doing a tarot spread called New Moon Tarot Spread. And it was 9 cards and it always started at the new moon. So I would find out when was the new moon. And over time, I realized that the new moon is kind of like a portal where you put your wishes out there. That's when you start to imagine what it is that you want to bring into your life. And the new moon doesn't get as much attention as the full moon because it's not visible to us in the sky. At that point, when the moon is new, it doesn't have any light from the sun. For example, the phases of the moon are in relationship to the sun. So when the new moon happens, there is a conjunction between the sun and the moon. That means they're together in the sky. So we cannot see a reflection. And I think of it as looking at myself in the mirror. So if I'm right in front of the mirror, then I can see myself. But if I'm next to it, then you won't be able to see me
Mm.
or the moon. So that's kind of like why there's no light at that time, but it's when it's kind of like a void. So that's when you put your intentions and dreams in there. And it's a good time to just brainstorm about what it is that you want. The full moon is a time for celebrations. It's also a time to like review what has just happened over the course of 2 weeks or 6 months and to determine what is it that you're going to celebrate about where you are at this point, and also what is there to forgive yourself about. Not necessarily others, but yourself. Like maybe what didn't you do or what did you do? Like whichever one. And to practice self-forgiveness is a really important part of like moving forward and having confidence because again, you're self-aware, you know what you did, and you'll know, are you going to do that again? Is that something that you want to bring into the world, or is it an energy that you're ready to leave behind? And then there's also like the waxing moon and the waning moon. I think those are my favorites, really. They don't get enough attention, but the waxing moon is when everything starts to grow. So those intentions that you set at the new moon, 1 week later, they're ready to start growing. And one of the way that you can make them grow is by taking action on them. So maybe turning one of those intentions into a goal. I like to do SMART goals because they are specific, measurable, actionable, like relevant in time, like time relevant, and time bound. I feel like I said that wrong. But once you set up a goal that way, then there are actionable steps that you can take to bring this thing to reality. Because setting an intention by itself might bring it to life, but if you put action into it, it will certainly come to life.
Yeah, I think
Or at least you would have, yeah.
a lot of manifestation circles, they don't talk enough about the action. I think it's all about, let's say, the mindset or the belief or whatever, or the energy, the frequency, but not so much about just daily action. What are your thoughts
Yeah,
on
I
that?
mean,
Mm.
the boring stuff is what brings it all together. And when I
Mm.
think about tarot, Saturn is like when I think about tarot and like boring things, it's Saturn.
Mm.
Saturn is the planet of like rules, regulation, structure, boundaries, and then in the tarot deck, it's the world. So if you want to have the world, then you must have boundaries, you must have standards. Like you need to have like a framework around it in order for it to like manifest. So
Mm.
all of those ingredients are needed, but definitely effort is one of them.
Oh, for sure, for sure. Definitely. And tell us about your connection with astrology or interest in astrology. How did that come?
So it came because I attended a tarot class. It was called the Tarot Salon with Ruth Ann and Walt Amberstone. And some of the students that were there were always connecting the tarot cards to astrology. And I had no idea what they were talking about. I hadn't seen that in books yet. And I was gifted a book that had these correspondences, and I felt like my mind was blown. I had no idea that there was a correspondence between tarot and astrology. And once I learned that, I decided to become serious about learning astrology. I had been afraid because it's 12 signs,
Mm.
10 planets, or planets and luminaries, and um, also like the 12 houses. It was just so
There's a
many
lot.
things.
Yeah.
But I connected it to the tarot, and that made it much easier for me to learn. And now it's made my tarot readings a lot more, it just adds more color to it. It
Mm.
makes it easier to understand, I think. The fact that it has more correspondences and influences.
Amazing. So speaking of readings, can I have my reading, please?
Sure. Do
Looks
you
so
have a
exciting.
question?
No, I just think now, I think I'm in a growth phase right now, which is really exciting. Um, like my work life is really going quite well. I would like my personal life. I'm not really. I think sometimes, with effort, when we think of the relationship between effort and results, when you focus on work, it seems to be like you put effort in work and you get results. But in terms of emotional life and relationships, it's way more complicated than that. And I feel some element of frustration because this is my line of work. And I feel that because I really like, let's say, sacred sexuality intimacy, it's more difficult to find aligned partnership. So I'm sometimes a bit lost um, about not knowing how to proceed in that. And also, I just do believe in the kind of traditional gender roles when it comes to courting. So I do like that, but I'm not really into dating apps or anything like that. So for me, like safety is important and alignment. Yeah. So I'm a bit at a loss at that side of my life right now. Mm.
Okay, so from what I'm hearing, your question is around how to put yourself in the way of a relationship because you're not on online dating.
Yeah.
So it's not like targeted, but you
No.
want to find organically the right relationship. While you were talking, the Queen of Pentacles popped
Mm-hmm.
up,
Okay.
and I feel like we've talked a lot about Capricorn and the devil,
Uh-huh.
and also the world. And this is the third card of Capricorn.
Ah.
So this is actually, what do you think when you see this? And then I'll tell you
When I think of a queen, I think of maybe feminine energy, but powerful woman who's obviously a ruler. And then pentacles, I think of money or work.
exactly.
Mm.
I those are all correspondences to this card. When I look at it in relationship to your concern, I think that it's important for you to be nurturing to yourself.
Mm.
Um, it has to do with pentacles. So whenever you are in a place where you feel really comfortable in your own body, that's something that can help you attract that. So I would say it's a lot about self-care, like mothering yourself and your body and feeling very comfortable in your surroundings. And I think since you mentioned money, like feeling like $1 million, as they
Mm.
say.
Yeah.
So whenever you're out, make yourself feel like $1 million. And for me, I like to get dressed up for all situations. So if I'm going to the supermarket, I'll wear like my casual clothing, but I always feel like I look presentable and that's what I'm supposed to look like when I'm at this place.
Mm.
Whereas some people will say like, "Oh, um I don't want anybody to see me because of how I'm dressed." I never do that.
Okay. I'm going to take your advice. No more sweatpants.
I mean, if you're wearing sweatpants, then let it be mindful. Like put them on stylishly,
Okay.
like try to look cool and attractive. I
Hmm.
think that's something that might help you with that.
Okay.
Um, does
All right.
any other question come up when after I say that? And I'll pull another card.
No, it feels really aligned because I'm actually investing now in a capsule wardrobe. So I buy one item per month and it's high, like of a higher standards of what I'm used to. So I'm very mindful about what I'm investing in terms of appearance and stuff. And I've also just thrown out loads of old towels that were just almost threadbare. And I've just invested in a whole set of luxury towels. So I'm always touching comfort. So I'm very much on that path. So this is like a confirmation of that. Mm,
Yeah, it's also like very sensual, like
mm,
touching fabrics that you really like put
mm,
you in a different mindset.
mm,
It makes you feel comfortable. You're at ease. When you're that way, that's how you attract things.
mm,
You can, like, if you're sitting on a scratchy mat
mm,
versus you're sitting on sheepskin, those
mm,
are going to be two different feelings. And I think what you bring in when you're on this type of fabric will be different.
mm,
Yeah, I like to surround myself with luxury items. I've been collecting the best that I can afford
mm,
for about 20 years. I like when I went to Turkey, I invested in a cashmere scarf that I wear all the time. I
mm.
have linen sheets.
I'm gonna get linen
So
sheets as well. That's the next thing on my list. Yeah, I've been
yeah,
looking at trying to find the best ones. Yeah.
exactly. So I like to wear linen. I like to wear cotton. I
Mm,
try to avoid wearing synthetic fabrics because
mm,
I don't feel good in them. I feel
mm,
uncomfortable. I'm kind of itchy. It's
mm.
not sitting well on my body. So I find that that's really important. However, I don't know if I'm such a great person to say because I am single.
It's all about starts with self-love. It all starts with the self-love. Yeah.
Yeah. But let's pull another card and see what comes up for an action you can take. What do you think about this card?
I just
This is
think
the
of
Nine
that
of
as that the
Cups.
wish fulfilled. It's just
Yes.
satisfaction. So what can I do? Nothing. Just do nothing.
No,
The Ten of
I
Cups for
think
those who are listening. Yeah.
it's not do nothing. You have to do all of the things that make you feel happy. Do all of the
Okay.
things. Yes,
That
you
brings
do all of
satisfaction.
it.
Okay, it's the
It's
Nine of
like
Cups.
nine.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, the Nine of
Mm,
Cups, like all of the things that make you feel great, all of the
mm,
things that you feel powerful, at ease, all of
mm,
those things will help you to attract the person who is your match.
mm-hmm.
But the
Amazing.
happier you are, the more people will notice, and that makes you magnetic.
I love that.
Like even this work that you're doing, I'm sure it was tough to
Yeah.
come out as a sensuality, sex expert.
Yeah, it's not easy because sometimes that can be a real, I have a spare room with a thousand sex toys in, so people come around, they're like, oh
Oh,
my God. They think it's cool at the beginning, and then they're like, oh, actually, it's a bit intimidating. But I just believe it's
it
a
is.
filter. I think it's a filter for the right person. Mm,
Exactly. So
mm,
your match would be curious. They'd want to know more about this. Maybe they will be happy to try the things with you.
yeah.
I feel like that's what I'm doing as well, is
Mm,
waiting until the right person comes. And I also trust in the universe. And I think that if I haven't found someone yet, it's because I'm not really sure what it is that I want yet. So
mm,
once I do know what it is that I expect to feel when I'm in that relationship, that's when I'm going to get it. Which
mm,
to me ties back to the message from the Queen of Pentacles. She knows what she wants. She's holding on to it. That
mm,
pentacle represents money, but it also represents like what's worth something to you.
mm.
So once you have that, then you can attract that.
I'll have to
Did you want to
investigate.
know anything more?
I don't know. Do you do three cards? How do your readings work?
So far I just pulled two.
Okay.
Um, I yeah, this is more of impromptu spread. If you had wanted like a more general reading, I would have done the Celtic Cross,
Oh, I do that
which
myself.
I love.
Yeah, I love that one. Yeah.
I love the Celtic Cross. I think it reveals everything.
Mm.
But yeah, I can pull another card. Let's see what else comes up. Oh,
Wheel of
the Wheel of
Fortune.
Fortune. Um, the Wheel of Fortune is Jupiter. And actually, one of the things that I did to this deck is to write what the cards
Oh,
are
okay.
in them. So the Nine of Cups is Pisces, Jupiter and Pisces, and then this card is Jupiter. So to me, it says that whatever you're doing, expand it, do more,
Okay. Love
like do
that.
more. Yeah, I recently saw you on LinkedIn and I saw that you attended an event. It
Mm,
sounded like it was kind of like last minute. To
yeah.
me, that was you saying yes to something and just putting yourself out there, and you had an amazing time. Do more things like that. That will
Okay.
be like a place where you can bring your partner into your life. And I think that because the Queen of Pentacles has to do with Capricorn, and Capricorn has to do with the 10th house, which is about your career, ambition, success, recognition. Think of it that way.
Amazing. I love that. Well, thank you so much for that.
Oh,
Let's
you're
see. I'll let
welcome.
you know how it happens. So a couple of questions I ask all of my guests. What is the book that changed your life?
I would say it is Gabrielle Bernstein's May Cause Miracles, a 40-day guide to subtle shifts for radical change. When I read this book, I didn't know anything about it. It was right after I started on my tarot journey, and I attended this book signing that she had, and it was actually a really packed room, and somebody asked her, "Why should I read your book? There are like 50 other books just like yours in the bookstore." And she said, "You should read my book because you are at my event and you are here now. So that's why you should read it." And I thought, you know what? This person attended her event. It's true. I'm at her event. So I'm going to read her book. And her book is basically um 40 days where you witness your thoughts and you are a witness to how you move through the world. And it's very short. It's basically like two paragraphs in the morning, two paragraphs at night, and then a reflective, like weekly practice. And it made such a difference to me that I repeated the practice a couple of times since reading it that first time. And each time I learned so much more about myself because I'm always changing. I'm not the same person that I was when I picked that book up in, I think it was 2012 or 2011. I'm so different now. So every single time since I have changed, the answers that come out change, even though it's the same exact words.
So is it like a workbook?
Kind of.
Uh,
Yeah. I would say like it's basically like notice your narrative. So
mm,
throughout the day, you would notice your narrative. You might set an alarm so that you can notice, so you can remember to do it. And then at night, you would journal about it or think about it. So yes, it is kind of like a workbook.
cool. And what about a phrase or affirmation that you live by?
The universe has your back.
Okay, the Gabby Burns. That's not one of her things, isn't it? I've heard the
Yeah,
book
I'm
of
like,
her.
that's another Gabby thing. I didn't read that book, but I didn't have to. The cover says it all.
Okay.
And I think that when I am in synchronicity with what I'm supposed to be doing and I feel good about it, it just keeps getting better and better. If it's
Mm,
something that I don't like and I feel uncomfortable, I'm stressed out, there's anxiety around it, then it's not a good thing for me.
mm,
Or it's a fear that I have to work through.
great. So where can people find you?
On my website, yesspiral.com, that's that's where I keep everything. It has a link to my newsletter there. You could also find me on social media as Yes Spiral on Instagram, TikTok. I'm on Pinterest, and I've recently started a Substack. And starting on in April with the new moon in Aries, which is the astrological start of the year. So it's like another chance to start over this year. I'm gonna open up a online community. It's called Moon Club.
Oh, I love
So
that.
we will read my book, New Moon Life Design, and basically like work through all of the exercises in community. Because I think that doing this with other people and saying like what you want out loud or announcing it in a way, like when you post something or say something in front of someone else, it helps to bring it to fruition much faster.
It also brings accountability for their actions as well, would you say? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So I like to think of the moon as my accountability partner.
Oh, I love that.
Yes.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining us today on the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast. It's been enlightening.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
The series I'm watching now is Age of Attraction, and this is available on Netflix. And this is kind of like, it's a very trashy show, a reality show about age gap relationships, and they try to discover or explore whether age is just a number. The format of the show is very similar to Love is Blind. If you haven't seen Love is Blind, I'm just going to share with you the format of Age of Attraction. So there's lots of couples who are involved in a speed dating dynamic at the beginning. They are face to face in a retreat environment, and then they are allowed to kind of get to know the people they have a connection with, and they can talk about anything except for their age. So people are just guessing ages from appearance, and the people, I assume they have just cast members or participants in this who are open to age gap relationships. So we see a very big, lots of variety. So people going from their 20s up to their 60s. And the reason why I kind of enjoy these shows is that I'm interested in the psychology of relationships, how couples communicate, and what do those who connect have that those who don't have. And I'm also interested in how people communicate needs, how people deal with conflict. And I think for me that the fascination of this is to see things from the outside with detachment of dynamics that I have participated in myself. Because when you're in a situation, it's very, very different from seeing it from the outside. And in this review, I'm just using it as a springboard for a conversation about age gap relationships. I'm not going to mention any of the names of these participants because it's not really about the people as individuals that I find interesting. I think it's about the behaviors and the archetypes, because these are not unique. They are not unique to the people involved in this show. So what was really interesting in it for me, well, let me just tell you the format first. So all these couples are kind of having these dates, and then when there is obviously some connection with some people more than others, then they spend time getting to know each other. Some of the activities are kind of like outdoor dates, etc. And then when they decide that they want to go to the next level and actually discover how old the other person is, they mutually decide to go to this promise room where they put some commitment rings on each other, and that's the moment where they reveal the age. And then after that point, when there are several couples that have actually taken that step, then they go to the next phase, which is living together, then meeting friends and family, and then at the end they decide whether they're going to continue as a couple or not. And a lot of the participants in this, they're from the States, so imagine America's such a big place that they not only have the obstacle of the age difference, but also in many cases the long distance and who's going to move for who, potentially. So what was interesting about this was the age gaps that emerged, and some of them were kind of bigger than expected, because you never really tell someone's age sometimes. It can be quite difficult. But one thing that was clear was that age or years maturity doesn't equal numbers. Let's say not all of the older people were mature, and some of the younger people were quite mature as well. And I think it's kind of a trap. It's kind of hard to avoid the "when I was your age" kind of patronizing, condescending remarks from the older people, because they do have more life experience, etc. And I think sometimes with the younger people in it, they don't really realize how precious youth is, youth and beauty as a social currency. And sometimes when you're 20, you don't really realize that how valuable that is, having this clear slate of being able to decide whatever life you want. Whereas the older ones, they already, are quite established in the place where they live. Some of them have been divorced, they have children, so they don't have that flexibility. And that's why I think it's a bit kind of to kind of take that away from a 20-something-year-old, or that sounds a bit dramatic, but I don't think the 20-somethings realize how profound that is. And I just don't think I could take someone's youth away from them. I think it's just best to stick to people of your own age in general. But also something about the age number is also the life phase. What phase of life are you in? And this is particularly a problem when, if people want to have children, and then maybe the other person is not of childbearing age, or maybe the other person has just had children with someone else and they just don't want to do it all over again. So there's lots of obstacles in an age gap relationship that is quite interesting. And some of the interesting things that came up in this show was double standards. There was one guy who was, I think he was divorced with 2 kids or something, with a much younger woman. And he wanted to be with younger women, women who've got no kids, no divorce. But he wants to be accepted for who he is, and that's who he is. He's got his baggage. And then also someone not revealing that they actually had children. So it's just very it's a bit kind of, these things that kind of happen a lot in reality shows. And what's interesting is that when there are, let's say, toxic dynamics of communication, etc., it's interesting that we can actually see them played out and discuss them as a society to kind of see what do we think is acceptable and what isn't. And it opens a conversation about relationships in general, which I think is really informative, especially for love education, because it's something that we don't really learn. And, relationships are much more complex than just like, oh, we get on and we want to have sex. It's just there are so many things to take into consideration. And also it just makes me think about age gap relationships in general and other things that can be, as well as, in addition to whether you want to create a family or not. An age gap, of let's say 10 years is very different when you're, let's say, 20 to 30 than 40 to 50. I think there's a lot of things that happen in your life from, let's say, between 18 and 28. There can be so many things that happen that are very, could be turbulent sometimes, but compared to later in life, that depends on the individual. That's a bit of a generalization there. But also an age gap that you might feel now might not be the same in, let's say, 10 years, 20 years. And that can be a problem. Let's say if you're in your 40s with someone who's 60, that could be more or less okay. But then when you're 60 and they're 80, how is that going to be? And also, I think as we age, it's really important to think about, lifestyle and whether someone's taking care of themselves, whether they are doing sport and exercising and, actually eating well, because you can age much better if you're taking care of yourself. Obviously you can even take care of yourself and you just don't know what life is going to throw at you. But in general, these things do become more important as we age. We can get away with a lot when we are young. But it makes me think about some of my own experiences with aging, not aging, but with age gap relationships. With someone asked me on one of my YouTube videos if I preferred older or younger men or something like that, and I said for relationships older, for situationships younger. It was kind of a bit of tongue in cheek there. But also what was interesting in the show was that the couples that were, let's say, older female, younger man, they were really loving the kind of sexual virility and capacity of the younger men, because as men age, well, as anyone ages, really, sexuality, it really does change, especially, menopause can have a big change. But it also depends on, whether you want to find solutions for the obstacles that become apparent when you are aging. And also, I do think sex does change when you age, and what you want can also change. But whether you want to be tapped into it and finding solutions is a very personal thing. I mean, I'm quite a confidant for people about their sexual problems. And I was recently been talking to a guy who's very successful, and he's probably in his late 50s, early 60s, and he's been confiding in me about his, erectile dysfunction issues. And he keeps telling me the same thing over and over and over. And I'm just like, well, there are solutions. You're not the only guy experiencing this. It's very common. Do something about it. And I do think sometimes there's a lot of pride involved. And sometimes people are, or even shame as well, and people are not really, willing to accept that things are not working as before, and seeking medical intervention can be quite, not something that they want to do. They want to kind of wish it away, but that's not really going to resolve it, and also it makes me think about situations I was in with older guys who were having, let's say, erectile issues, emerging more and more, and something called VLS, which is Venus, not Venus, Venus as in veins, Venus, what's it called again? Venus syndrome, Venus leak syndrome, where you start to kind of lose erections, or you can't. It's difficult to maintain erections. This is very common as people get older, and sometimes it can be physical. It can also be emotional. There are many factors that are involved. But what's really important is what someone's attitude towards aging is, and if they are going to be open to solutions. It's very difficult to bring up these topics in conversation, especially if someone's older and they have a kind of demeanor that's a bit condescending, a bit superior. They're probably going to say, "Oh, there's nothing wrong with me. I'm fine. It's just you." So it's just difficult to approach these conversations. But going back to the age of attraction, some of the older women were just like loving the fact that they were with younger guys who were just up for it and capable of satisfying them. And I do think that's kind of a really cool. Sometimes that can really work just for sexual purposes. I'm not sure if that can, sometimes you obviously do need a lot more than sex to have a serious relationship. But it makes me think about also a problem with age gap relationships is when the gap is a generation apart. That for me, it becomes a little bit creepy. And I know people have called out this show for being a bit predatory, especially when you hear of older guys going with women who could be their daughters or even granddaughters. I just think that's a bit weird. And it reminds me of a time when I was in my 20s and I was working for a company, and I had this client who was in another European country. I'm gonna definitely camouflage some of the details here because it's a real person, real experience. But let's say this guy was in a different country, and our monthly calls started to become a little bit more personal when he started to share with me all his day-to-day reality of living in the country, caring for animals, and just kind of nature-inspired life. And for me at the time, I was kind of like living in a shared apartment. It was always chaotic, always parties. I just couldn't even get a night's sleep. It was just so hard. Working for a company that wasn't paying me much, so I just felt completely impotent, no peace. And then there's guys telling me all this, "Oh yeah, in the meadow, this, and la la la," and I was like, "Oh my god!" And then we started to have. It got to the point where our email started to become more personal, and I gave him my mobile phone number. We started to have these really long conversations. This is a time before video calls. But I remember one day he actually sent me a photo of himself, and he was okay. He was no Brad Pitt, but he was okay. But it was the emotional curiosity that I had. It was like someone understands me, or someone is giving me this kind of oasis of peace in a time that my life was filled with chaos. And the curiosity got so big, and my horniness as well. I was definitely projecting, filling gaps with things that I didn't really, which maybe weren't even true. But anyway, we ended up meeting in Switzerland, and I told him to get separate hotel rooms, which he did and paid for, which was nice. And as soon as I met him in person, I was like, "Oh my god, the photo he sent me was kind of out of date." And it was just of his face, the photo, but then I saw his whole body, and he was kind of overweight, middle-aged, and could have been my father, basically. It was just like, it was really creepy. But I was just so horny that actually I did end up having sex with him, but I just made sure I was looking at the wall and on all fours kind of thing. And I kind of enjoyed that idea. I just felt so young and hot and beautiful with this older guy just like really devouring me. I didn't really reciprocate any of that. I was just a kind of a ragdoll. But it was a horny experience. But then when that encounter ended, I was like, "Oh my god, what a relief! I need to get out of here. I need to never see him again," kind of thing. And also what was really weird was when we were going out for dinner and the reaction of other people when they saw us. Obviously we looked like father and daughter, but then when he was holding my hand, it was obvious that it wasn't. He was a bit kind of like, I don't know, a bit overly proud of me, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is just so freaky." But but I guess people, there's so many assumptions around people probably thinking I was there for his money or whatever, but I wasn't there for that at all. I was like, as soon as this is over, I am out of this guy's life and he's out of my life. But it was a really eye-opening experience. And when it's the other way around as well, it's super interesting. I think these things are much more emotional than what we give them credit for. I know I've been kind of establishing a friendship with a much younger guy, and there's just some fire there between us, and I could kind of go down that path if I wanted to. But one of my very trusted friends is telling me, no, don't do it. But there's something about the way we communicate that I know that he is really loving the fact that I have this worldliness that, someone of his own age is not going to have. And I'm not really asking anything from him or expecting anything from him, etc. But I'm gonna really, listen to my head in this one. But in general, I do kind of like this trend recently that we've seen in Hollywood with films and series about older women with younger men. We don't see it enough because it's always the other way around. Whereas I think it can definitely work, and it brings to mind the film, I think it's called Lonely Planet, starring Laura Dern with that guy who was with, what was he called? With Miley Cyrus, and she's on a writing retreat, and she's with this much younger guy, and that can be something very passionate there. But then sometimes when the emotions emerge, I think also that can also trigger lots of insecurities, and that definitely did happen in Age of Attraction, because you're always going to think, well, why aren't you with someone who's younger? Why aren't you with someone who's younger and hotter than me? Because as we get older, you can no longer just rely on looks. You have to have a lot more going for you, which is obviously what people are attracted to as well. But I think we live in a world where there's lots of pressure to look good, etc., and age in a certain way. But yeah, I think it's a interesting program nonetheless. And I know there's going to be, I think I saw on Instagram, there's going to be a vegan dating show starting soon, which I can't wait to watch that one, because I think it's interesting just to see, what factors are important when it comes to love. And a lot of these dating shows are looking at extremes. Let's say Love is Blind, when you can't actually see the person. And then another extreme, which is really fun, is Naked Attraction. I don't know if you've seen that, but if you have, it's available on HBO, and it's really juicy. It's basically someone choosing someone based on their naked body. And that can be obviously very superficial. And often when they, it's kind of like all the participants are in these different colored booths, and the chooser is, let's say this kind of screen goes up first, just above the waist. So the first thing they see is the legs and the genitals. Then they have a conversation with what kind of genitals do they want, and then they eliminate one. Then the screen goes up a bit more, and then you see the chest, and then they eliminate one that they like the least, and then it's kind of like the face, hear them speak, and then in the end they choose. It's just a very vulnerable thing to do, to go on TV completely naked and be scrutinized in that way. But yeah, it's trying to see what formulas work, but it's all for entertainment's sake, and it just really opens questions about attraction in general, which I do find super interesting, especially in a world where now a lot of people are, craving connection, but we are feeling increasingly disconnected. Yeah, so that's Age of Attraction. So what do you think of age gap relationships? I think, give or take 5 years is okay. But then when it gets to, let's say, 10 at a push, but 15, 20, that's when things get, can be complicated. But in addition to that, I do know some age gap relationships where the woman is 50, the guy's 30, and she's a party girl and he's a homebody. So sometimes a lot of personality can play a role in it as well. But for me, I wouldn't feel comfortable with taking someone's youth away from them, no matter how much they tried to prove to me that they were into me. I just think time is our greatest asset, and to take away someone's opportunity of, let's say, having a family, or just having that flexibility that's available to you in youth, I don't think that would sit comfortably with me. But never say never, but it's definitely not ideal. But yeah, I think it's just best to stick with people who have similar age to you, and who have similar cultural references, and life goals and blendable lifestyles. Yeah. Now it's time for this episode's meditation. Please don't listen to this while driving or operating machinery. Instead, take a break from whatever you're doing, get comfortable, take a deep breath, and enjoy. I welcome the energy of the new moon. I have good intentions. I welcome the energy of success into my life. I invite the energy of love into my life. I hold space for new projects. I am a powerful manifester. I am a magnet for aligned opportunities and blessings. I welcome the energy of the new moon. I have good intentions. I embrace my ability to create my ideal life. I am open to receiving my gifts and more. I invite the energy of abundance to flow through me. I trust that everything is happening as it should. I am a magnet for aligned opportunities and blessings. I welcome the energy of the new moon. I have good intentions. I align with peace, love, and abundance. I accept healing energy from a higher power. I am ready to grow into a higher version of myself. I am open to the sacred nature of life. I am a magnet for aligned opportunities and blessings. I welcome the energy of the new moon. I have good intentions. I am ready to manifest my gifts from the universe. I am ready to release everything that doesn't serve me. I am worthy of everything that I desire. I manifest all I need with ease. I am a magnet for aligned opportunities and blessings. I welcome the energy of the new moon. I have good intentions. I honor my own process. I am aligned with the universe. I am full of endless potential. I am excited about the future. I am a magnet for aligned opportunities and blessings. I welcome the energy of the new moon. I have good intentions. I align my energy with what I am calling in. I trust that what is meant for me is already seeking me too. I plant my intentions with faith, love, and deep trust. I surrender the how and stay devoted to the vision. I am a magnet for aligned opportunities and blessings. I welcome the energy of the new moon. I have good intentions. I welcome all that is meant for me. I sow seeds of joy and trust they will bloom. I am ready for a beautiful new chapter. I receive this new beginning with grace. I am a magnet for aligned opportunities and blessings. I welcome the energy of the new moon. I have good intentions. This new moon holds the magic of my becoming. I open my heart to new beginnings. I invite in what truly fulfills me. I make space for positive transformation. I am a magnet for aligned opportunities and blessings. If you enjoy the affirmations and meditations I share here, you will love the longer versions I've created on Insight Timer, the world's #1 meditation app, available in the App Store and on Google Play. Every Friday, I release a brand new guided practice on topics like love, health, wealth, motivation, abundance, and many more things, all designed to help you relax, recharge, and realign. Just search for Venus O'Hara on Insight Timer or follow the link in the show notes. To find out more about me and my orgasmic lifestyle, visit venusohara.org or follow me on Instagram. The Orgasmic Lifestyle is also on Substack and YouTube, where you can watch all the interviews with our experts. All the links are in the show notes below. Make sure to search for the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast by Venus O'Hara in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, or anywhere podcasts are found. And click subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. Thanks for listening, have an orgasmic week, and make sure every day is a climax.